On the heels of the Masters tournament concluding earlier this week, we turn our attention to golf. Brendan Mato, senior at Detroit Catholic Central High School in Novi, varsity golfer and the lead student broadcaster for Detroit CC Athletics. Welcome to the show, Brendan.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be back.
It's good to have you back. Hey, I want to tell you a quick story here. So, this is about 12 years ago. It was my first time. I was working in Kansas City. It was my first time ever interviewing Tom Watson, 8-time major winner, 2-time Masters champ. And the lady I was working with, she knew I was a big golfer, big golf fan, big Tom Watson fan, and so I was nervous. And I usually don't get too nervous, but I walk up to Tom. She says, "Tom, this is Johnny. He's a big golfer, big fan of yours." And Tom extends his right hand, looks me dead in the eyes, and he says, "Can you break 80?"
No way.
That was the first thing he ever said to me. So I mutter out, I'm like, "Yes," and he said, "Okay, good. I'm Tom." And and I think at that point in time in my life, I'd broken 80 like one time, and it might have been fluky, and I might have had a mulligan. But
Yeah.
anyway, it was just pretty awesome. But anyway, he's a great guy. So let me ask you: can you break 80?
Uh, Pretty much the same thing as you, Johnny. I might have done it once.
Okay, okay.
Like 79 with
Yeah, that's what mine was too. 79.
yeah.
All right. So what's your current handicap?
Right now I'm playing off like 11 or 12.
Okay, good.
So yeah, low 80s. Yeah.
You can get around the course pretty good. All right. In a nutshell, what is your commentary on golf about?
Um, you know, Golf is kind of in a weird spot right now because there was, the huge division and the, sort of giant divide between Live and the PGA Tour. Now I feel like that's kind of just in the past. Nobody really cares to think about that anymore. It kind of just is. Um, so, but realistically, with the majors and the Ryder Cup opening up to the Live players, of course, the Masters has the past champion rule, all that sort of thing. But with all that stuff, I think it's kind of just on the back burner. Nobody's really worried about it anymore. But what I would, what I do like to think about is guys like Bryson DeChambeau who are tearing it up. He's tearing it up this week at the Masters. We've seen this. He won the U.S. Open last year. Brooks Koepka got second to John Rahm in the Masters the previous year. I'd love to know what these guys would be capable of should they still be on the PGA Tour, um, you know, being watched by thousands of people rather than, doing these live tournaments, making a ton of money. But overall, I think golf is in a good spot, right? There's lots of talent. Guys are hitting it miles. Um, and yeah, I think there's great golf to be watched every single week. So I think it's in a good spot.
Yeah, I think it's in a great spot too. And I think when we talk about golf and when we watch golf, we say the sport of golf, right? But your commentary is more, and we know it takes skill, right? But the question is it a skill? Is it a sport? Right? And so, in your opinion, and we'll get to your full opinion, did you find this to be, was it as interesting as you thought it would be as far as what goes into defining, this particular element like golf, like why it's such a, I wouldn't say it's like a hot button issue, but why that there is that, uh, why there's a discernment between golf potentially not being considered a sport?
Yeah, it was interesting to kind of hear what how people looked at me when I asked them the question. Um, because some guys like my coach looked at me and he's like, dude, is it a sport? You got to throw that whole question out because like, yes. And then there's other guys like a couple of my friends that just play recreationally on the weekends and they're like, dude, like I'm not like competing, like we're not on the PGA tour here. Like I have golf clubs and I swing it around. Like that's a hobby, you know. So yeah, it was interesting kind of to see how people really just took in the question when I asked it to them.
Brendan Mato, on the commentary of golf, a skill or a sport. Let's listen.
Is golf a sport? You may have strong opinions on this, may have never even considered the question, but it's a question that I think a lot of people would disagree about once you start to think about it. I'm on Detroit Catholic Central's golf team, so I have my opinions, but let's get to those later. I spoke with some people this week and dove into the question, is golf a sport or is it a skill? To one of my golf coaches, Coach Dirks, it depends on your idea of the definition of sport.
He said that it's really about how you define the term sport. He said it kind of dives into an ego thing, right? What sport is popular and what looks good on video? What do people like to watch? But realistically, with those four attributes, physical toughness, mental strategy, and a bit of technical skill, you can get all the way down to chess considered a sport.
So let's analyze both sides of the argument, starting with, yes, golf is a sport, not just a skill. While golf is slower than most other sports, the mental demand, partnered with the intense physical and technical strength needed to succeed, makes golf just as demanding as any other competitive sport you see on TV. Take a look at guys like Brooks Koepka, Rory McIlroy, or Tiger Woods. These guys are buff, and it clearly shows for something, as these guys, three guys alone, hoist 24 major championship trophies among them. Endurance, also a huge skill that golfers use, as they're walking 18 holes in 90-degree weather 4 days in a row. That's not even including stepping up and swinging a golf club. So no, golf may not look like a real sport, since no one is running, tackling, dunking, etc. And while most general applications of golf see it as an individual game rather than a team competition, it still demands the same, if not more, physical and mental strength than any of those other sports. Hey, golf is part of the Olympics now, which I guess doesn't exactly mean much since last year featured breakdancing, but it's still worth something. This week, I spoke with Matthew Krakowiak, a fellow senior on Detroit Catholic Central's golf team, about his view of golf as a sport.
Yeah, I would say it's both. You're always competing against the course and yourself, trying to minimize bad mistakes, bad breaks. I forget who said it. It might have been Ben Hogan, but he said that, golf is a game of misses. And, golf just requires a lot of focus and endurance and trying to constantly keep your composure under pressure, just like all sports are. But then from the skill side, it's really technical. Things like chipping and putting really have to have, fine motor skills for that. Those take a ton of practice. They require a lot of finesse, and it takes a lot of repetition, practice, years and years to get those good.
So now to play devil's advocate. Whenever I tell someone, yeah, I play golf, I'm almost always met with, oh, cool, something you can play for the rest of your life. This is true, but it also says something about the game of golf itself. You can't play basketball or football for the rest of your life. You can't run and tackle or shoot and defend when you're 80. You can play golf, though. So really, is it on the same level as these sports? I asked my friend Benny Fagarsi, who plays golf recreationally, why he thinks golf is more so a skill.
Benny, you're more on the recreational side of golfers, right? So I'd have to assume that you'd think golf is more so a skill. Is that true?
Brennan, that's a great question. I believe golf is more of a skill to have rather than a competitive sport. Although it can be competitive, I believe it's more on the skill side.
Okay, so you kind of alluded to it a little bit, right? It could be a sport. Do you think that's true?
Of course, I think that's true. There's always competitive sport and competitive nature, per se, in any sport you play in. And whether or not you believe golf's a sport or not, there's always going to be a competitive aspect to it, whether or not you're playing with a bunch of friends or against another teammate. But I believe that's how golf is brought up to be, more playing for fun.
All right, so to wrap it all up, what do I think? To me, golf is as much of a sport as you make it. I think it's important to recognize the mechanics of golf require skill, but the physical and mental demands, as well as the need for strategy on the course, make golf as a whole greater than just a skill. Especially playing in a competitive sense like I do in high school, with multiple day tournaments, walking while carrying a bag, the teams, and like I mentioned, the strategy, mental and physical strength makes golf a sport. But just having golf clubs and a swing, playing 18 on Sunday with your buddies and having a hot dog at the turn, you might want to consider it more of a skill or even just a hobby. But when you think about it, you've got physical mechanics, mental strategy, precision under pressure. It may not leave you gasping for breath, but it can sure leave you emotionally shattered. And isn't that what we all love and find in true sports? It's without a doubt that whether you're walking the course with a caddy or riding in a cart, whether you're 18 or 80, golf takes serious discipline. And that counts for something. In my honest opinion, I'd have to say golf is a bit more than just a skill. So that's what I've surmounted this week on whether golf is a sport or a skill. But this certainly doesn't mark the end of this debate. We want to hear your opinions too. Find us on social media or make a channel on sportscaster.com and let us know what you think. Is golf on the same level as basketball or football? Or is it just an excuse to get outside and wear exotic polo shirts and khakis?
Brendan Mato from Detroit, CC. Terrific commentary, and it does make you think. Straight ahead on Open Mic, we'll hear from longtime public address announcer Kevin Beers from Oakland University. Where does a good catchphrase come from? He would know, and you will too. Next.